maybe just update the group a little bit on what you and the staff saw from Saturday's game and a little preview of what you're looking forward to with the home opener.
Yeah, I thought the effort was pretty good from standing on the sidelines and then also watching the film. Certainly the execution's got to get a whole lot better. You know, we watched the film a lot yesterday, and I think the players understand there were some opportunities offensively, what we call touchdown opportunities that we didn't execute that normally we would, and we got to get better on that. And defensively, it was the first game in the new scheme, but you know, we got to tackle a little bit better. Certainly, the effort was really good, but there's a lot of things we got to get better. Special teams was average for us, in our opinion, but there's our guys. Again, I like the way they work. They came to work yesterday and got a good practice in. Rest up today and then get ready for Grambling starting tomorrow.
When you watched the film on Anu, how'd you evaluate how he did?
You know, he competed, he made some nice plays, but he also missed some plays that he normally would make. And he saw the field well at times, and other times he didn't see it as well as he has in the past. So I got, you know, Coach Smith, I got a lot of confidence that he can make those plays going forward. We just got to do that as a group. You know, there were some veterans that made, you know, some mental mistakes that they normally wouldn't make, and those are things that I know they'll get corrected in a hurry, and we have to get better.
When you take a look at the video, you probably say, oh, I wish I did this differently or that differently. Is it too wacky to say, what if Nick Wilson had taken a knee on the 1 yard line just so you had the ball last?
You mean when he scored?
Yeah.
No, the only thing, no, I would, you know, when you're behind, you want to score. But I did think, oh gosh, they still had a lot of time left. That was the thing. But you know, at the time we were struggling so bad offensively that just to get a touchdown was kind of a key. And you know, what was disappointing was our kickoff has been good, and we let them get out to the 30, so they had great field position to start, and then you know they hit a couple pass plays. But you know, it seemed like one of the factors probably after watching the film again, particularly special teams. They did a great job pinning us in there. I don't know how many drives we started, not inside the 5, inside the 1. And, you know, even though we got out of there a little bit, it's still tough to go 99 yards. And we've got to get better field position going forward because we're not, you know, we're an explosive team, but to go ask anybody to go 3 or 4, I think it was at least 2 times, maybe 3 times starting on the 1 yard line is kind of tough.
Speaking of Nick and the running backs, did you hope to get Orlando and JJ more touches? And was
We
that a
did.
product of just
Yeah,
running
we did,
the
and
plays as you had hoped?
Yeah, we did, and they'll get more going forward. Both those guys, Orlando and JJ.
Coach, it seemed like your tempo was a little bit slower than it normally had been in the past. Is there any reasoning behind that, or?
I didn't think so. The only reason that probably if it was because we were backed up. And it's a little harder to go fast when you're backed up than when you're out on the field, so to speak. So, and I think a little bit too was, you know, first game things, but I didn't, on the sidelines, I didn't feel that, hey, we need to speed things up a little bit. But I always like to go faster, so hopefully we can with better field position.
Do you hope to get Brandon into the game
Yeah,
this week?
yeah, there was times where I was close to putting him in the game Saturday, just to get him a couple of series, because he does bring a different element. I mean, he's a good athlete and can run. So, yeah, I did. I would have liked to have got him in there a couple of series. It was just weird. We only had 30 plays, limited possessions in the first half. But going forward, we'll be conscious of that.
Is there a big gap between him and Anu? Probably not, but Brandon and Anu, or is it really close?
It's close. Yeah, it's close. And, you know, the thing Anu had brought that, you know, experience and seeing the field and the things that Brandon's getting better at. But it's still, you know, I don't like to have a guy play at any position where I make one mistake, I'm going to be pulled out. I want him to play freely and without stress as far as making mistakes. But at quarterback, certainly you got to be productive and you got to make the right decisions, make the right reads. And we put a lot on our quarterback. I've said this many times. It's not just in the pass game. There's a lot of times in the run game where a quarterback's making decisions. And so typically they get better as the season goes along. But Anu's got enough experience that he'll correct those mistakes.
Is that one of Brandon's issues, if that's a word?
No, not really, not anymore. I mean, he's got better. The biggest thing for him is, you know, having a command on the entire offense and being accurate on some of his throws, but he's gotten better. Like I said, we'll see how it is going forward. I don't, you know, we discuss it and we practice with it, and at some point, if we're moving the ball and scoring, great. We'll leave the guy in there. If we're not, we may not. It's not real complicated science theory there.
When you were watching tape of Anu, how many times did you ask yourself or wonder, Anu tucking in just running instead of?
Well, there were a couple times to run, but not as many times to run as just as throwing it in the proper. They were playing us in a little. We weren't sure how they were going to play us, and they played us in a couple different coverages that we had seen before, but we recognized it really quickly in the first quarter and communicate with the guys, and we just missed some open things that normally we would not miss, and that you're going to miss some of those in all the games, but usually in the first game. But there were a couple of times he maybe could have ran, but more than anything, stepping up and hitting a couple big throws like he's accustomed to doing will help us going forward.
Is the defense as much of an unknown today as it was 1 week ago?
In some respects, I thought we played hard, but we didn't create any turnovers, and some of that is they did a good job. They got an experienced quarterback that's very accurate. Their backs did a good job protecting the ball, but everyone says, well, you got to get turnovers. Well, you can't just talk about it. Talking and saying, hey, we got to get turnovers is not going to create turnovers. You got to create turnovers by aggressive play, by creating some confusion, by making them being uncomfortable, and we weren't able to do that at times defensively. So I think that was why we never had any field position. We got to be able to create some turnovers going forward.
Do you take anything away from a team that beats a Division II team 72-12, as Grand Lake State did?
No, I look more at what they did last year. I mean, even though every game counts, I look at, they're 9-2, they're a good 1AA, very athletic quarterback, very good running back, athletic guys at the perimeter. And they challenge you with some they'll blitz a lot, they'll bring pressure. They did against Cal, they did against everybody. Well, we got to be ready for this. They'll play with a chip on their shoulder. But we got to, our first concern now is getting us better. And then certainly throughout Tuesday and Wednesday's practices, we'll practice for their schemes.
You tweaked the depth chart a little bit at linebacker, putting Michael Barton over at Willie. You're trying to get him into the game.
Oh, did I?
Let
Let me see. I speak out of ignorance because I don't know what Blair puts out there. Sometimes Blair feels like, this guy should be starting, so I got to watch Blair. So what did he do? What Blair did? Paul McGlure or Michael Barton? Oh, the biggest reason. Okay, that's good. Good for Michael. I love him. Graduate transfer. The biggest reason I think there's an or there is that we got to get Michael in the game more. He played a few snaps last weekend, but he's an active guy, and we didn't get him in the game as much as we like, so he'll play a lot more this weekend.
Coach, how pleased were you with the play of Anthony Mariscal?
I think he did okay for his first time. He didn't play nervous. His eyes were pretty good. He tackled pretty well. But again, defensively, I thought it was solid at times, but not as my expectations. I'm sure Coach Yates as well is higher than that. So we got to get better.
Coach, what did you think of Tellis Jones's performance overall?
Tellis is very active. He's one of our most athletic players, period, on either side of the ball. And he's all over the field when he's in there now. Certainly he's nicked up a little bit, so we'll see if he's available for Saturday. But you notice him when he's there because he's so active.
What happened to him?
Thursday, you'll find out. He tweaked an ankle. I don't know if he'll practice tomorrow or not.
When you look at the offensive line performance, what were your kind of main takeaways from that?
Probably more solid after watching the film than my initial impression after the game. And they got a lot of different looks. There were just a couple, you have one breakdown with one guy, it messed the whole play up on offense. And we had a few of those, but I thought they were a solid front, BYU, and I thought they did a solid job against it. And particularly, we had a couple guys starting for the first time, starting redshirt freshman center for the first time. He competed pretty well. But in the things, again, I said this after the game Saturday, and I'm confirmed to watching film yesterday a couple of times, that the things that we need to get fixed are fixable. It's not something like, oh, gosh, this will be an issue all year. No, it shouldn't be. We can get them fixed.
More specifically, how did Nathan
He played, I thought he played pretty solid. It wasn't great, but he didn't play nervous. He snapped well. He was seeing the field well, and did a pretty solid job for his first start.
Were they zone blitzing? They would sometimes seem like
Some.
a bunch of guys would rush and then they'd kind of like peel off.
Yeah, you're getting pretty versed in the football knowledge here. You want to talk about zone droppers and roll coverages, and it's good. And run pass options, RPOs. We call them RPOs, run pass options. So we had some of those called, and we didn't execute them. But no, they did that, and we expected some of that. Some of the coverages that they threw out early were a little bit different from what we thought they would do. But again, our coaches and players we knew it from the first quarter on. Just didn't hit some things that were there, and just could never get in a rhythm really until the end of the game.
You've had Anu for 2+ years now. And
3 now, right?
Plus the redshirt year. Confidence-wise, what kind of kid is he, and how can he move on from stuff?
You know, he's more mature, and he made some plays. So, but he's hard on him. He's as harder on himself than we are. And trust me, Coach Smith and I are pretty hard on him at times. And I think a quarterback naturally feels the brunt of everything when your team doesn't play well or doesn't win. But he's conscientious enough to understand it. Just yesterday's practice, there was a couple things he did in practice that we wanted to see in the game, and he was, determined to do it. So he's a lot more competitive than maybe he sometimes lets on with his personality, and he'll get better. He'll get better.
So when he says this game's on me or whatever, and you're on.
Well, I don't believe all that. I think it's admirable to take that, but it's never one guy. It's never one guy. Now, certainly everybody wants to play better, and you want to everybody take ownership in it, but, we didn't lose that game because of New Solomon. We lost the game because we didn't coach or play as well as we can. You got to give them some credit for that.
How encouraging is it that there weren't many penalties for the first time?
Well, I'd hope so. We take a lot of pride in it. There were a couple that were really we pre-snap penalties that should never happen. Not having enough guys on the line on the opening punt, and there were a couple pre-snap offensive penalties which we take pride in not having that. So we played a pretty clean game outside of that. But we also needed to force more penalties. It's kind of strange. A lot of times you can force penalties with effort, particularly on defense. And I don't know if there was a holding penalty called or not. Was there in the whole game? That's kind of odd. But we've got to work on that.
There are a couple non-freshman defensive linemen who didn't dress, Finton Connolly and Daryl Coy. Is there a reason?
Yeah, they weren't playing. They weren't in 2 deep, but it's usually a pretty good idea. If they're not dressed, they're not going to play. But they're working hard. I like both those guys.
Is Jacob Colassione, is he unable physically to play this season because of his knee that he hurt?
No. He's practicing full speed.
He is?
Mhm.
Anything else for Coach?
Oh, Keenan Walker, did he face any discipline or suspension or anything because of what happened in the offseason? or is
You
he just
didn't
also
see him
just
play,
rehabbing?
did you?
No. But,
Okay.
I mean, he was also rehabbing, so I was wondering if it was,
He didn't play. He's healthy.
okay.
He wasn't playing in the first game. And I don't know when he will. The head coach will make that decision at some point.
Anything else for Coach? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is a defensive lineman Justin Belknap. Next to him, defensive back Dane Cruikshank, offensive lineman Jacob Alsadek, and kicker punter Josh Pollock down here on the far right for you guys. We'll open up for questions.
Jacob, having had a few days now to kind of digest what happened Saturday, what are your thoughts on the overall performance by the offense and the offensive line, of course?
I think effort-wise was really good, and, we were working hard. We never, as a team, we kept fighting, and that's something to be proud about, especially, being down 0-0 at halftime, negative rushing yards at halftime, especially as an offensive line, that's not something you want. And, I think second half we stepped up, we kept fighting, good things happened, we came out, played hard, but I think there's a lot of little things that we really need to fix, and if we can do that, I think we'll be a lot better next week, and but it's not big things, it's just little things, and all those things added up.
Did you get a sense, Jacob, on Nathan's comfort level as the game progressed?
Yeah, he was a lot more confident after, every year, every first game, everybody's nervous the first time you go out there, but, I think Nate played really well. I think he stepped up and he was confident, and that helps the whole offensive line because he's kind of the leader of the offensive line for us, helping us, telling us where to go and stuff like that. So I think he did a really good job.
Justin and Dane, what's your thoughts on playing your first game as Arizona Wildcats?
It was a great experience. I was happy to get my feet wet, I felt like I left a couple plays out there on the field, just it being my first game, getting used to the speed of the game and everything. But I felt like now that I got a game under my belt, I'll be ready for next week and a totally different player.
I was super nervous going out there. It was my first game, such a big stage, being such a young guy out there. But after that first play, I was excited. I was ready to go. I wanted to stay on the field as long as I could, even though it's a bad thing for defense. But I just love being out there, and I can't wait for next week.
How do you think the defense performed? I mean, if coming into the game, if you had said, you guys are just going to give up 18 points, most people probably would have taken that and said you're going to win. But, Paul McGlory's sentiment after the game seemed to be that it wasn't good enough because you guys didn't.
Well, our goal each week is to give up 0 points, period. I felt like we did a great job for a lot of us players being our first times actually touching the field. But, the game ended how it ended, and I'm ready for Grambling State this week, so that's what I'm focused on right now.
Josh, how did you switch things up there with that field goal? It looked like on the 52 one that you missed, you had tons of leg, but then obviously the next one, you couldn't really as far, but you had the accuracy.
I didn't actually change anything up going into that kick. I looked at the first kick as being, a good experience. It's a far kick, and I was happy with how it went. The whole operation was just smooth. Nick Reinhardt, he played really well. Zach Worlinger, his holds were really good. And so going to the next kick, I was just as confident. And, I just kicked the ball how I kicked the ball and expected it to go through. So it felt good.
Josh, how much work did you do with Zach as your holder leading up to this? I know you'd worked with Matt a lot, and then you got hurt.
Yeah, me and Zach actually worked together a lot in the spring and all summer. And we also, even when I was taking reps with Matt, we would get together after practice because, Zach's one of those guys that wants to make it perfect. And that's why our special teams unit, I feel, is going to be pretty good this year. Because with Nick and Zach, they both want to get out there every day and want me to go get reps with them, even if it's just watching the snaps and the holds just to get it all down. And so I'm comfortable with it.
Beg your pardon if I've done. Can you elaborate, Jacob, on those little things that you were talking about? For example, it looked like there was maybe one miscommunication on the news first sack, or something wasn't blocked. Can you talk about that a little bit more? What are some of those little things you're talking about?
Just sets, pass sets, steps, angles that we were taking. They just, things that, in practice you do perfectly and easy things to do. And we just, we didn't execute it well. And so I think that those things were the problems that we had and faced up front. Is that what you're asking? Yeah. All right.
Sure.
Justin, are you on scholarship?
I am not on scholarship.
Have they mentioned to you the possibility of that happening? Or?
Coach Amy always says keep playing the way you do, and just keep doing what you're doing, and you're playing like a scholarship player, and just keep doing your thing.
You said you were nervous going into it. What was that moment where all of a sudden you weren't nervous anymore?
Right when I hit 73, the left tackle, pretty sure it was first play. Just all my nervousness and just all my emotion was just out. I was ready to go. I was zoned in. My adrenaline was pumping. I was just ready to go out there and make plays for my team.
Coach was mentioning earlier that one of the things you guys were unable to do was create turnovers. How do you go about doing that? He was saying you can't just talk about it, you have to go out and do it. What do you guys think you need to do to take the ball away?
Like I said, I felt like a couple of us left a couple plays out on the field. it being our first time. I felt like I need to turn my head on those couple fade balls and actually adjust my body to the ball. But to be honest, it just wasn't that type of game. It was just a game 3 and out. That's how we were playing. Taysom Hill was taking shots at us, and he was playing smart, and to credit to them, I have to give credit to BYU. But we just got to keep playing harder, getting used to the speed of the game, and with more experience, I feel like we'll get better and better.
Justin, what do you think?
On the D line, maybe we could have, it's always could-haves and stuff, but we could maybe try to strip the ball more when he, stood up, because we had him stood up and just waiting to get hit. We could have maybe went for the ball more, stripped it more, and that's just something we'll work on in practice.
Was he difficult to, Taysom Hill, was he difficult to corral or chase down? It seemed like he was making a lot of smart decisions when to get rid of the ball or when to take off running.
Yeah, he was making smart decisions to get the ball. He wasn't really sitting in the pocket too much. When he escaped the pocket, he's a fast quarterback. He's a great player. He knew what he was doing with the ball.
Any more questions for the guys?
Jacob, when you come into the locker room at halftime and you don't have any points, is it sort of a state of shock that, that's just not like Arizona to not score?
It's just frustrating because we couldn't finish drives. We had a couple first downs and, we started moving the ball, but, when you look up and you don't have any points on board, obviously it's just a little frustrating. But, I think that, the coaches came in the locker room and said we were going to win this game, and, we all believed it. Because you go up there and you play and you feel the way that they're playing you, and, you felt that we could win. We really can. You think going into every game you can win, but, even with the score the way it was, you really felt it.
What do you think that you guys did better in the second half as an offensive line, especially getting Nick going?
Getting used to what they were doing, I think, was something, and just getting those nerves away, stuff like that. But, just being confident in ourselves and what they were doing really helped. And, you draw it up on the sideline, but, once you have a little bit more time to talk about it with the coaches and the rest of the offensive line, I think that you really can pick things up a little bit better.
Has anyone seen anything on Grambling State? Dane, maybe you? Have you seen anything yet on them?
Yeah, I came in earlier this morning. I watched some film on them. Pretty good team. We'll come out to compete and ready to go Saturday. That's about it.
What do you think makes them good? What did you see on? Was it so impressive?
I see that they got a couple transfer players that could do some big things. We just got to come ready to play and prepare for them this week. That's about it. Like I said, it takes more than one day to see actually what they're really, really doing. So I just got to watch more film on them. But I saw that their offense could be pretty explosive at times. So we just got to figure that out.
Josh, this was not your first appearance in a college game, but your first, game as a starter, and you're doing place kicking and punting. How do you think it went overall for yourself?
I felt like it went pretty well. I felt comfortable out there. I definitely felt comfortable with the punting. After that first ball, my confidence was really high, and I rode that out, and I'll keep riding that out. And with field goals, I'm the more comfortable I am out there, all comes from, like I said, my unit was Zach and Nick, and everybody else was blocking for me, so I can't take all the credit for the field goals or the punts, really. And so, I think we've got two really strong units there, and I feel comfortable going out with them every time.
This is for everybody. How pumped up are you guys about getting that emotional lift of knowing that you're going to get to play at home in front of your home crowd for the first time this season?
I've been waiting for this all my life to play in front of a home game at Arizona Stadium. It's going to be a great experience, great atmosphere, and I just hope that Zona Zoo is ready to watch Saturday.
Jacob, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's a good experience, It's something special, especially for stuff that we can do for Zach and his family, too, especially, we get all this stuff from other schools and NFL teams, and, that it's nice to see how many people actually care about, our team and his family. And I think that's something special. And, I saw his family at the game, and, it touches your heart, especially because, how close I was with him, especially, you know what I mean? So it's hard, but, you know, it's something special that we want to just carry on his legacy.
How many schools and teams sent stuff to you guys, would you say? Like dozens?
Yeah, a lot. You know, we have it up in the offensive line room, a couple letters that Oregon's offensive line sent to us, the whole team from Texas, 49ers. You know, the Cardinals let us use their facility, and, you know, they had a bunch of stuff for us too. But definitely a lot of teams have sent us some stuff, and it's been nice to see all that.
Okay, guys, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.